So hello and welcome back to the Computer Lab, and if you are new to my channel then welcome as well. So today I'm going to be looking at adding the snow effect using Apple Motion. So what I mean by that, we're going to be using a static image and then we're going to be putting a particle effect which is built into Apple Motion, so we can overlay sort of snow and give the impression of movement within the image. So without any more further ado, let's get into the video. So I'm going to open Apple Motion up and then we'll get the default splash screen. I'm just going to create a motion project. It's currently set on 720 broadcast and 59.94 frames per second. We'll leave it on that and we'll leave the 15-second duration. If you want to make a shorter or longer clip, obviously just change the duration there. And like I said earlier, I'm going to do this one as a 720. It is really taxing on the computer when it has to generate this effect in the particle emitters. So it's worth noting, the bigger that you have and the more sort of higher resolution image you have, the more taxing it will be on the computer. I'm using a MacBook 2020 model. I think it's an i5 with 16 gig of RAM, and it taxes this. So I know it's not the highest spec you can get, but all the same it is taxing on the computer. So I have already got some images ready to go, and they are in this folder here, which I've just created in my movies folder called YouTube Apple Motion Snow Scene Tutorial. So I'm just going to pick this tree scene one here. I'm going to grab and drop that into my layers group here, like so. And that puts it in group one. I'm not going to rename any of these groups. If you've seen any of my other tutorials on Apple Motion, I tend to give these names and stuff. I'm not going to do that for this one because it's all about the snow effect for this particular thing. Okay, so you can see if I just make that slightly smaller in the view window here, you can see it's slightly smaller than my view window. So I'm just going to stretch it out. Again, if you had an image that's the right side, this is because it's been taken on a camera. And obviously the 720 HD 720 that we've got it set at, the template is slightly bigger, but we'll stretch it out, it'll still look okay, and we'll still go through the snow scene that we're trying to do the particle effect. So I'm just going to make sure it fits the background perfectly, so we haven't got any white showing. Okay, so there we go. So we've got the first layer in our layers menu. So now we need to add our particle effect. So we need to click, make sure we're on library on this section here. You've got the inspector and you've got library. So make sure you've got library selected. Click on particle emitters. And I think the snow is in nature off the top of my head. And there it is. Couldn't see it then for looking. So there we go. So that's the snow effect, and you can see if you click on these, you'll see in this top corner it does a preview of the actual effect. So I've got snow selected, you've got snow blizzard, and then you've got snow flurry, which is great, sort of coming towards you. So it's that effect that the actual snow is coming towards you like you're driving down a road. We're going to be using the standard snow effect because there I can sort of tweak the actual size of the flakes, the snowflakes and stuff like that. So I'll make sure we've got this one selected. So make sure that the playhead is right back at the beginning. Grab the effect that we want, in our case the snow, and then we're going to drag it up into the top group and then let go there. So you'll notice straight away we've ended up with this bar across here. Now if I push play on this scene, you'll see what happens. So it does this snow effect, and you'll notice, which I'm going to show you in a second, this frame per second is going down. The more the Apple Motion has to populate the snow scene, the actual lower the frames per second go, and that's because it's doing a lot more processing. Once it's processed and you've exported it, it won't matter, but when you're trying to do a scene like this, then it can be taxing on the computer, can slow your workflow down. So it's worth noting on what's acceptable for you to use, and also not locking the machine up at the same time. So let's get the playhead back to the beginning, like so. So we're going to right click right in the center of the effect in the window here, right click and then click emitter, and then what this does, it puts the emitter bar along the top. So what we need to do, if I push play now, you'll see what I mean. So it will emit the snow from this bar, and you can see what it's doing. It's obviously snowing from halfway down the picture. What we want to do is the snow for the whole, the effect for the snow to be across the whole of the image. So we're going to drag the emitter bar. In fact, let me drag the actual playhead right back to the beginning, so it's not having to process where them dots are, where the snowflakes are. So I'm just going to drag the left one up to the top corner and also the right. And I might just spray it out just a bit further so the snow is sprayed across the actual full of the image. So I'm going to go about there, I think. And then what we'll do, I'll make sure it's straight and parallel, should I say. Like so. And then we'll push play on the playhead. And then we should start seeing the snow effect come down. So you notice that it starts obviously from the top, and the lifespan of the actual snowflake will depend on how long it stays on the screen. Now, I wouldn't say it's too bad, that, because it's actually showing the effect of the snow melting. We can change that a bit further in the menus. And you notice that it gets to the end of the scene. So the snow currently is only set to run to probably about 9 seconds. It's actually on the 10-second mark, actually. So at that 10 seconds, and it stops. If we want to extend it across the whole 15 seconds of this particular scene, then we can just select the actual snow effect. And also don't forget that it brings in this blur effect on the top of the actual snow. So we need to do both. So we'll drag the snow all the way to the end and then snap it to the end of the playhead. And again, you can see the computer's having to think now. That's because it's got all the snowflakes to process as it's trying to do this. Let's not forget the blur effect, which is also just above the snow effect in the timeline here. When my computer has finished panicking about what it's got to do, what I should have done is just drag the playhead to the beginning, because what it's having to do is think about all them images, because it's doing this live as I'm clicking on these items. So I'm just going to drag that one across. Okay, so now what will happen, this will play, you'll see the snow falling. Let me just click off and get rid of that bounding box. So you see the snow starting to fall as we drag the playhead across, and you can see it locked up there a bit in the middle, because that's as it processes in more and more snow effect. So what do we need to do now? Well, if I push play on the playhead, you'll see what it does. They are quite small, the flakes. Maybe don't look too realistic. It looks okay. And it might suit your picture or your image that you're overlaying it on quite well. So what we can do is, though, make the snowflakes bigger, and we can also make the actual snowflakes melt less, as it would be, using some of the property settings within the inspector tool. So what I'll do first is increase the actual snowflake size. So the best way to show this is to have it where there's plenty of snowflakes like this, and I'll zoom the image in. We'll go to 200%, and you can see the size of the actual snowflakes here. So over to our top left hand side, and we need to make sure that we go into the inspector menu, and then in here we want to make sure that we're on the actual layer that we want to inspect. So I'm going to click on snow, and then it straight away it populates some of these options here, and the one that we want is the emitter. So I'm going to click on emitter. And then within emitter, we've got a couple of different options. So like I said earlier, you can change how many snowflakes are on the actual scene, and that's called the birth rate. You can define how long they stay there, so how long it takes them to live the life of the snowflake coming down, so how quick they will melt as it would be in real life, I suppose, and that's the life menu. And then you've got the scale of the item, which is the actual size of the snowflake itself. So what we need to do, let's do the size of the snowflake, because you'll be able to see that on the screen here. So I've left my playhead in the middle because that's where there's quite a lot of snowflakes going on. And I'm going to, where it says scale at the bottom here, with the option at the moment it's 100%. So let's say we change that to 285, for example. Now give the computer a second to think about it. So we've got the spinning bouncing ball at the moment, and you'll notice over here, there we go, and it's changed the actual snowflake size to the bigger snowflake. So now if I went back to 100% view, and then back to the beginning of the playhead, push play, and now you see the bigger snowflakes. In fact, let me just get rid of that bounding bar so we're not seeing that. And now you see the bigger snowflakes coming down, as you can see, and that might be more appropriate for the scene if you want a bigger snowflake. I think that looks better, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. Next thing, again, make sure that we've got the layer selected that we're going to use up here, and you can see the computer's having another think about it now, because it's let's go to the beginning, so it's nothing on the screen for it to process. I'm going to click on the snow icon again. So that was the scale that we touched, and that's the scale of each individual snowflake. The next thing I wanted to show you was the actual birth rate. So again, I'm going to put this on about the 7 seconds mark, and you can see in fact, let me put it a bit further in actually, so you can see that we've got a bit more of a screen full of them. So then we've got the birth rate, which is this one here, which is currently set on 42. Now, obviously if I ramp it right up to sort of a 100 or something like that, it'll slow the computer right down, and it'll probably slow it down for a minute or so, depending on how many I have on screen. So obviously if I drag this less or change the 42 to something, maybe half, and go for sort of a 20 birth rate, you'll notice that the snowflakes on the screen in this preview image changes. So it's just flicked to 37. I'm going to go to 20, and then you'll see the big jump. So I'll go across, once you've got 20, you'll see there. So now there's only 20, and that's the birth rate of the actual snowflakes, the particle emitter. So it's only birthing, if you will, these pixels at a 20 rate. If you double that, then it will double the amount on screen. So again, if I go back over here, I think it was it on 40, 37, I think to start. So anyway, we'll go to 40, and you'll see it populate over here, the flakes up to that amount. And that's obviously, if I was sat at the beginning, the birth rate, because they start and come down from the top of the screen, then it can take a while to see the birth rate. That's why I've put the playhead, 10, 11 seconds in. So that's the birth rate, which is basically how many snowflakes you've got on the screen. And then the last one I wanted to touch on for this tutorial was the life span here. So this is how long they stay on the screen, and how the distance from the actual top emitter bar that we set at the beginning, the distance that they will travel before the life of that pixel or that snowflake runs out. So for example, if we change the actual, so let's just see what we've got at the moment, make sure everything's still working okay. So you can see the actual emitter coming down there, and that's because we've got snow selected at the moment. So I'm going to click off there. Let's hit the playhead and see what it look like, because I think we've upped the birth rate slightly. We've made the snowflakes bigger, but it looks quite nice. It looks quite pretty at that. So we'll leave it at that. So last but not least, like I say, let's have a look. So again, it's when I think about it. Where are we? 11 seconds in. So I'm clicked on the snow, and then the life is here. So currently we're set on 8.43. Now if I reduce this down to say 2, you'll notice from the bottom of the actual preview here, they will disappear and go higher up. So it's basically only snowing the first sort of section of it. So I'll hit the playhead on, let's hit that and hit play. And you'll see the actual lifespan. So they're all sort of fading out from about the third the way down the screen. And that's because we've decreased the life of the actual pixel or snowflake. So let's up that and let's populate it a bit more. So we're going to change that now to, let's go to 8. So we swung the other way, we've gone from 2 to 8. Again, we'll click on our playhead, hit the play. And now we should see the snowflakes go further down the screen. So depending on where you want the actual snowflake or the effect to finish will be where you selected the life. And the other thing to note here, you'll notice now when you push play at the beginning of the playhead, when you push play for the scene, that the actual snow doesn't start to fall straight away. Now we can change that by dragging the actual effect, which is this snow effect here, and we can drag that off to the left hand side so it starts snowing before the actual image comes up. So how we do that is make sure that we have snow selected here, and then we just drag this out across. Now we need to make sure that blur is going with it, because blur is the part of the actual image. So we need to drag both of them across as the way, and you can see the actual scene coming down now. And what we do is we drag that until we're happy to where the point where we want to see the actual snow. This is because I've got my playhead sat right at the beginning, so this is where the actual image is going to start snowing from. So we can keep dragging this until we're happy to the point where I think, well, it's going to start snowing at this point. So keep dragging and say, well, let's say we're happy there. Now we can grab the end of the actual particle effect, and we drag that so that it keeps snowing all the way to the end of the image. So I'm going to left click again on my mouse, and then if the computer behaves itself, we're going to drag it right to the end of the clip. And that should, once it stops thinking about it, be it. So now when we click on the start of our project, it will start to snow pretty much straight away. So we'll just drag the player to the beginning, like so. Hit the play button, and then hopefully we should see the full scene playback. So now it's snowing from the beginning. We haven't got it sort of populating from the top, and it'll run for the whole 15 seconds of the project. The last thing we can do if we really want to make it into a true Christmassy scene is we can add the actual sort of bit of music to it. So I'm just going to open this up. I've already got this Jingle Bells royalty-free theme song ready to go, and I'm just going to left click on here and drag this directly into my timeline as it would be down here. So left click on the actual, I'm going to drag it in and just drop it onto my timeline right at the beginning, like so. And then now we've got the Jingle Bells theme ready to go. So now when I push play on the playhead, it will start snowing straight away, and also the Jingle Bells will be playing in the background. So let's click on the scene, click play, and then with a bit of luck, when the computer sorts itself out, is that we've got the nice Jingle bells and the snows coming down. So that is it. That's how to create a snow effect using Apple Motion on a static image. So now we've got everything as we want it. Last thing we can do is File, go to Share, and let's export it. I've got Movie as default, so I'm going to select Export Movie Default. So let's rename this. Make sure that everything is set to, so it's exporting exactly the same as what we've got, what we've set the actual project as. Click on Next. This will ask where we want to save it. I'm just going to save it into the folder where we've just come from. YouTube, Apple Motion Tutorial, Snow Effect. Click on Save. And let it go away and save. As soon as it's finished saving, it opens straight away up on the Mac using QuickTime to play it. So we'll just give it a second to sort itself out. You see the spinning circle here, which is means it's processing. And when it's finished processing, hopefully we should see it pop up like so. So I'll minimize the actual Apple Motion and I'll play this back, and we should be hit play. And that's our snow scene. We could even add motion to the tree in the background and have that move slightly as well to give that true effect of movement throughout the image. But that's how to apply the snow effect using Apple Motion on your Apple Mac. So I really hope this tutorial has been helpful. If it has, please do subscribe to my channel. Any subscription or any like is always truly appreciated. Please do hit me up with your comments below. They are, again, all welcome, good or bad. And if you like the video, do give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to any new videos I make. And thanks again for watching my channel, The Computer Lab, on YouTube.